Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
The growth of shared services for grants across government has climbed steadily over the last 5 years. Through the Grants Quality Service Management Office, 29 agencies are using standardized technology services to help award more than $1.2 trillion a year. With more on how the Grants QSMO plans to further drive standardization into grants management, Federal News Network's executive editor, Jason Miller, joins me now. Jason, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Terry.
What is the Grants QSMO doing these days to further evolve how services are delivered by agencies?
The Grants QSMO is moving away from a traditional process to find vendors to update its shared services marketplace. This is something they've been doing for years. They put out a request for information, they review these vendor submissions, and then they go, look, we have new people in the marketplace. Instead, what the Grants Shared Services is doing is really they're going to be using a special item number, a SIN, under the GSA schedules. Andrea Sampanis is the director of the Grants QSMO in the Department of Health and Human Services, and she says that change is part of how the grants marketplace really has evolved over the last few years.
This allows us to be a living commercial marketplace with ongoing intakes and an evaluation. Previously, with the RFI effort, it was a really big spike. You all only maybe had 3 to 4 weeks to respond. And then we had some very fun summers trying to review all of the submitted documentation. We're hoping this can even it out. It allows you to take the time, really understand what we're looking for. That's another piece. We got feedback from vendors, more transparency in what we're looking for. And the SIN method gives us all of that.
Now, Sampanis says the SIN will be added as part of GSA's refresh coming in June. GSA already previewed some of these changes in Mass Refresh 32 a few weeks ago in a notice to agencies and vendors alike, saying it will be SIN 518210GM. I know for those of you keeping track at home. Now, Sampanis says the SIN also includes several subgroups as a way to expand the standardized service options for agencies.
First being the core award management solutions. That really is the core amount of where the grant spends its most time in the application intake, review, award issuance of the notice of award, the modification of the award sometimes, and closeout. Big end-to-end, lots of requirements there on interfaces. It is currently what is really the scope of our commercial marketplace catalog that you hear us talk about. However, we've expanded that scope to include another subgroup, which we've termed additional GM solutions and services. There's a lot in that. These are just examples of what could be in there: single audit support, transaction processing support. Those could be additional services you need. Subrecipient monitoring, NOFO simplification. Again, just some examples. The next one is grants management technology operations services. We were sort of taking a look at where a lot of that spend is happening, and we know many of you need O&M support of your systems. So that is, there's sort of one focused on O&M, help desk, system integrations, implementation services.
Now, Sampanis said also grants performance management services will be added as another subgroup in the near future as well.
Jason, this all sounds a little complicated for folks who don't live in this world every day. What are the benefits of this change in approach?
There are several benefits for both agencies and vendors alike. First off, for agencies, which have been, they've been trying to modernize these core grant systems for many, many years. Now they have one place to find all the qualified vendors, but it's more than just having the one place. They also can compete a contract to modernize those systems. Now, Sampanis says the SIN will help streamline acquisitions for everyone involved.
Another thing we've heard from our agencies is that they're looking for not just sort of the core award management system, but they're also looking for services, be that PMO support, risk assessment. We've had a whole slew of questions coming in saying, hey, do you have market research on this? Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't, but either way, the SIN allows us to expand the scope of that marketplace and really reflect your capabilities that many of you have been coming to us and saying you want it on the marketplace, and look at these capabilities we have. It allows us to scale, as I mentioned, be transparent, and have consistent vendor engagement. That was a big thing. We had received feedback from vendors in the past to say, could you let us know sort of what your expectations are, what your requirements, what your evaluation criteria are.
Now, additionally, Grant Shared Services are already helping save thousands of hours of time because agencies are sharing resources. But maybe more importantly, the SIN will give agencies a lot of confidence knowing that they can buy this service. It's already been checked out and approved by, and that these vendors know what the standards are that they're following. They already know all about the changes outlined in 2 CFR 200, which OMB, as you know, updated last year. Now, finally, Sampanis says moving to the SIN will actually help grant recipients as well.
By creating the SIN and where we were purposeful in where we chose to put the SIN, it's open to cooperative purchasing agreements, which means state, local governments, tribal governments, territories are all able to buy off of this SIN. Many of those, probably all of those, are grant recipients. So they may have a need for a system. And if they do, this is an open avenue. Of those, there's 50,000 grant recipient organizations. Now, not all of them are states, local governments, tribes, territories, but there's a significant amount of our funding going to those groups. A recent AGA survey conducted found that 75% of recipients use simple or no technology systems. That could mean, for instance, manual processing or maybe souped up SharePoint site to manage this. And the requirements are getting more complex. As we seek to fight fraud and improve subrecipient reporting, there's being a lot asked of our prime recipients.
What exactly will vendors have to do in order to get into this new system with the SIN?
It's not such a straight thing like, okay, I can just apply. There's actually something called the Grants Capability Framework. And this is something that this is developed by the Grants QSMO to help ensure consistency, not just across grant systems, but also it's really close to financial management systems as well. Sampanis describes the framework's 3 big main areas.
We start out by adopting everything that's in the Grants Management Federal Integrated Business Framework, FIBF. That starts with the functions and activities, which is really the taxonomy. So we talk about the process with the same words. That's the business use cases, which talks about the different user stories. We will continue, as we have in the past, to use these as the basis for our system demos. We've added a little bit to those, though, as we will be asking for demos, for instance, to show where maybe some of the forms get pulled in or the integrations get pulled in. They do cross different scenarios, too, maybe a disaster grant for one and a research grant for another. Third is the business capabilities. This is very exciting, hopefully, for our developers. It's defined input, process, output.
We have a link to that framework on federalnewsnetwork.com, make it easy to find. But the other thing, Terry, that's really important about this framework is that it's not just at a high level. It really goes a step deeper. It breaks down grants data standards, the standard forms for grant recipients, and even the QSMO created an API library, which actually was at the request of many vendors. Now, again, all of this is part of that capability framework that's going to help drive that standardization. Now, finally, the QSMO has outlined an evaluation criteria for the SIN as well, and this cuts across business, technology design, technology operation, programmatic, economic, and organizational requirements. And one last thing, vendors and I think agencies will notice a lot of similarities with the financial management QSMO and its SIN. The FM QSMO and GSA established that financial management services SIN back in April of 2022. So again, a lot of similarities. They're building on top of something that's already there, but it's a little different. So I think that's something that Andrea really was highlighting.
So, Jason, it sounds like she's tackling a lot of much needed improvement in the grants management system here.
I think this is something that's been ongoing, a big need for quite a while. And I think they're at the place now where they have the systems, the technology, but also the will to really kind of say, hey, here's where you can find this information. Here's where you can find the systems, the solutions to make grant management better. And of course, the big push on fraud, all of this plays into this move toward shared services and standardization.
That's Federal News Network's executive editor, Jason Miller. Jason, thanks for bringing us this information.
Always a pleasure, Terry.
You can find his full story at federalnewsnetwork.com.